Hello.
Hi, Lindsay.
Hi, Joe from Radius. We got a half pig hanging here.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it
Oh
too.
my gosh. I'm stoked. So, one of my New Year's resolutions was to learn how to butcher an animal or just continue to keep doing the reps and do more work into
Yeah,
butchery so that I can, keep unraveling the process of where food comes from and then also hopefully be able to do it myself one day.
I mean, I think that's super cool. It shows your ambition, your openness to learning. And I think at no matter what level you're at, it's going to reveal all sorts of cool stuff for you.
Yeah.
And you're never going to be quite done.
Right, right. Yeah. And I think since I started hunting, that was kind of the same thing. It's like, oh, hunting, animals, rifles, learning about that. Then the animal, oh, butchering, skinning,
Yeah,
all these things. So I'm super stoked. We're here at Radius in East Austin, Texas. And again, with Joe, and he's going to go through a half pig and show us all of your favorite cuts at home. So you got your pork chops, your bacons. What else are we going to see here?
I've got a tenderloin is the first thing I'm going to get you.
Okay.
I'm going to show you one of the advantages of being a whole animal butcher shop
Yes.
or working with whole animals
Okay.
is you get access to some things you might not normally see in a
Mm,
grocery store because
sure,
of logistics or labor or whatever.
sure.
So the copas, the skirt steaks and stuff.
Hmm.
And while we are doing pork today, I want you to know, I want everyone to know that all quadrupeds are essentially the same anatomy wise.
Mm,
You just
okay.
might have different proportions of fat, muscle sizes, things like that.
Sure.
So, all the steps that we're going to talk through today will be applicable for wild game, for beef, for
Cool.
goats, lambs, all that.
Okay, so the process is going to be the same, but when you actually open the animal up,
Yeah.
that might be very different, largely different. And why? Is that because of the sourcing? Is that because of how the animal was treated? Do you want to tell us more about where this animal came from?
It's a great question. I mean, there's always going to be a nature nurture
Sure.
debate
Yes.
with all of this. We're talking about breeds and we're talking about lifestyle and feed.
Mm,
So, Kevin, our founder at Radius, likes to say you are what your eat eats.
yes.
So, we are going to be finding evidence for diet and lifestyle as we unravel this animal. In addition, different breeds are going to show us different things too.
Mm,
So we need to know what we're looking at before we look at it, and then measure how our expectations are met or exceeded.
mhm.
Yep.
Okay, can I ask you a question? You've opened up a lot of pigs, yes?
I don't mean to brag,
Okay.
but yes.
About how many?
Maybe 1,000.
1,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe this is a yes or no question. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's more nuanced. But when people think of pigs, a lot of times they think dirty, parasites, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
like all these dirty pig things. Is that true or false?
I mean, the word pig itself can be derogatory.
Sure.
Um, my former company, I called it Swine House because I kind of wanted to reclaim
Hmm.
some of that um, imagery. I wanted to
Oh,
reclaim just the way we think about our food
yes.
and kind of take power
Yes.
in things that we might not want to embrace,
Mm,
confront meat.
yes.
This was a life. And I want to elevate the pig,
Yes.
and I want to elevate the farmers and ranchers that are doing the hard work, making the hard decisions, embracing the land as well as the animals' well being. And we hope to continue that kind of stuff with Radius. Um,
So when you open up a pig, then does it matter where it comes from as it relates to what people think of as a dirty pig?
it matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't see that with these pigs here.
No. So this particular pig comes from a fully regenerative operation in New Braunfels, Texas. It's called Pure Pastures. Maggie and Jeremiah Eubank are wonderful ranchers,
Hmm.
wonderful people, and they really care about the soil and the land. They consider themselves grass farmers as much as animal farmers. And it really shows.
Hmm.
When it's on your plate, You don't need any more convincing when it's
Sure.
delicious, and it shows when you're really up close
Yep.
and revealing what it has to tell you.
Yeah.
Flavor, texture, aroma,
Mhm.
your yield,
Right.
how it performs in sausage.
Yeah, I mean, it looks really clean, so I'm excited to dive into it.
Yeah.
Real quick too, when you said swine something, you were trying to.
Swine house. This is
Swine
not. I
house.
wasn't trying to plug.
Okay.
So you know,
No,
but
no, but it's cool because I just thought of something too. I'm like feeling swine, my friend.
oh yeah,
So
yeah.
let's dig into it. First thing we're gonna do.
First thing I look for when I get a pig, especially skin on pigs, is I'm going to inspect head to toe. How does it look? How does it feel? Is there any evidence of bruising? Any injuries? Is it clean? This particular pig looks extremely clean. That could it be because the processor did a really good job in addition to the rancher. I'm also one of the things I'm a big fat person.
Yes.
I love fat.
Okay.
And one of the things
doesn't?
I'm looking for is this line
Mm-hmm.
right here.
Okay.
This is the loin section.
Okay.
So our chops,
Sure.
a lot of our lean, perceived lean meats and more tender meats come from here. And this is actually two kinds of fat. A lot of people in culinary school, we just talk about fat back, but I don't know if you can pick it up.
Okay, so we look for the clean pig,
Yeah,
and
so
then talk to us about the double fat.
we're very clean here. And if you'll
Yes.
notice, there is a line running down the middle of this fat cap.
Mm-hmm.
There are two kinds of fat here. This we just call hard fat,
Mm-hmm.
and this I call number two fat.
Mm.
Both are very delicious. They have two different melt points,
Mm-hmm.
and ideally, most of your sausage grinding is being done with hard fat.
Mm-hmm.
You hunters out there, when you're trying to make sausage out of your venison and you're
Sure.
buying pork fat, you want to specify fat back, hard fat.
Ah.
It's all going to be very nice, but
Yes.
especially for smoked sausages, I really like to use hard fat only. But I'm looking at this ratio here. I'm getting a lot of options on what I can do with this pig based on how much fat I've got. Now, especially if this ratio is 50% to 50%, I'm feeling ecstatic about all of the options I have. So it's a little bit thinner right here, but it gets really thick down here. So that is a ratio I'm pretty happy about right here. And it's got a clean color. It smells great. I've got leaf lard here, which is a third kind of fat. We want to
Yep.
be aware this has the lowest melting temperature. This is going to render very easily. It's going to make really great pastries.
The leaf lard is.
Yeah.
So is leaf lard also like the technically suet? So it was the fat around the
Yeah.
pig's kidney? Is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
This
See, I'm
is
learning.
this is protecting our piggy's internal organs from
Okay.
temperature, from impact, injuries, things like that.
It also makes great beauty products, huh?
Fantastic. Yeah, we've got lip balms and face creams and mustache wax and all sorts of stuff that we're making
Mustache
out of
wax.
each of these kinds of fats.
Yes.
Chef Kim is really brilliant at utilization.
Okay, we love that. So what do you say, what's next?
I like to use a straight, stiff blade
Okay.
for breaking. That's the first cuts off the animal where I'm not slicing, I'm not chopping, I'm finding the areas in between muscles and seams.
Sure.
The gentleman that taught me how to butcher, he told me to ask the animal how it would like to be taken apart.
Okay.
And really, that's just saying that is this easy or hard?
Yeah.
We can do this the hard way where you just go through stuff,
Sure.
or the easy way if we know what we're doing and cutting in
Let's-
between things.
So the first thing you said you were going to do with this nice stiff blade you've got,
Yeah,
I should probably take my hand out.
whatever you want. It's fine.
Okay.
So I've located our leaf lard. Right here is where the tenderloin lives. That's for beef, for venison, whatever.
Sure.
The tenderloin is going to go from about the middle of the loin all the way to the H bone, AITC bone. I've got a lot of leaf lard here, which is a good thing, but it's kind of blinding me a little bit. So if y'all are doing this the first or second time, take a second, clean up your lines a little bit. You can remove a little bit of fat, you can remove a little bit of skin so that we can expose some of our seams.
Okay.
First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this flank that's just resting right on the ham. I'm going to open it up a little bit. I'm going to see in here, and then I'm going to remove some of this leaf lard.
Okay.
So
Let's go.
got this flank right here.
Yes. Getting close.
And if you see,
you keep talking, Joe.
there's a seam right here. This is all fat. There's red and red. The seam is going to come around the sirloin and meet us one vertebrae down from the tail, or the turn. Sometimes we'll call it the turn. One vertebrae over. So eventually I'm going to make basically a diagonal. I like to curve a little bit, but I've just opened that up a little bit.
Okay.
So now I've got a little bit more visibility, and I'm going to be able to pull some of this really soft, easy to render leaf lard off. And I'm just going to start to be able to see really what I'm working with. Don't worry about it.
Nice.
Got a little skirt steak right there.
Ooh, that's where the skirt comes from.
Yeah, it's the diaphragm. It helps it part of the breathing apparatus. Okay, so you can see how glossy these gloves are, how soft that rips up.
Wow.
Really, really easy to cook with. Difficult to make sausage with because of how soft and how oily it is. On beef, a little piggy flank steak.
So this is a flank steak. Bavette too, it's also
Yeah.
called? Or? Okay.
Yeah, we have a French butcher, or a butcher that worked in France, and he says that bavette, really, they'll call anything that's like a flap, like a long, flat, even meat, bone, right under here. So it's going to run directly straight down. The tip of my knife, you hear that?
Yes.
Is on bone, on bone, on bone, 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 bone.
Okay.
So I know there's nothing valuable at that tip. Up into bone, and this is the head of that tenderloin. And if you'll see, the tip of my blade, bone, bone, bone. So as long as there's bone on the end of your blade, you know you can keep cutting. And as soon as it's soft, you know you're in meat. So now,
that sounds pretty basic. No.
So now I've got the head of that tenderloin out. And let me just scrape this so you can see bone, sirloin, bone. And this tenderloin runs all the way down the vertebrae. So I'm just going to lightly, with the tip of my knife, be very careful as I'm cutting. We don't want to cut towards our bodies.
I see you're doing like a little maneuvering around.
Yeah, if you see these curves, I'm just kind of mimicking it, and I'm leading with my elbow.
Sure.
I'm keeping my wrist stiff and using my elbow for those curves. All the way down to the end of this hanger steak. Now with
hanger steak. I hear that's a butcher's cut, huh?
Oh, it's lovely. It's a little bit funky to cut, so I'm splitting that bavette away. And now I'm going to release this tenderloin as it is still attached. And basically, along that line right there, once I've cut that, I can pretty much just pull that tenderloin off.
Whoa, the tenderloin is like so good. Wow.
Yeah, if we were to cut the chain off.
Yep, that's your tenderloin.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what do you guys do with those pieces right there?
We clean it up. It's kind of a chore, I'll be honest with you.
Yes.
To clean up super nice. See, that's just basically more leaf lard. But if we were to maybe take that silver skin off. This is really good stir fry.
Oh.
Cheesesteak kind of stuff. Very, very tender.
So
It's
is this
just
a
kind of complicated.
tender part of the tender, like a mini tenderloin?
Yes,
Okay.
except it's got a little bit more connective tissue within it.
Okay.
So generally we put this in sausage trim. It's
Okay.
very flavorful.
Great. Nothing to waste here.
Yeah.
Like it. All right. What's next?
All right. So 2 steps ago, I talked about
Okay.
how I'm going to connect this flank cut down to this first vertebrae. I've got meat along this curve, so I'm just going to pull away. I've taken my tenderloin out, so the most valuable thing on here is already on the table.
Yes.
So another good indicator is through these glands right here. If I've hit these glands, that means I know that my sirloin is safe.
And those glands right there.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. You can eat them. They don't particularly have a strong flavor.
Okay.
We remove them. They don't benefit the texture very much, I will say. But once we get past those glands, and the reason why we go to this vertebrae is because of this pin bone right here. It's part of the H bone, and it extends into like our New York strip section.
Okay.
And the end of that pin bone is where our New York strip starts.
I see.
So
you don't want to like mess with the New York strip, so that's kind of why you're just paying for
it's another really valuable cut
Yes.
that people love. It marinates really nicely. It's pretty uniform. So we want to market that.
Okay.
And it's really easy to cook. So I've cut down here. I'm almost there. But basically, I'm going to go right past that pin bone. And the edge of it is cartilage. You hear that noise?
Oh yeah.
You can see there's cartilage right there. I have
Wow.
scraped the cartilage off of it and left it on that. And that means I'm just making sure that I have the most loin to sell as possible.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Wow.
Cool. So I'm going to stop there. We've shown where we're going to split our ham and middle section. I'm going to show you where to split the shoulder and the middle section. Pork, lamb, beef all get split between the 5th and the 6th ribs.
Okay.
That's where ribeye starts and chuck begins with beef.
I see.
And why we're doing that is because the shoulder blade ends between those ribs. If we had wanted to saw through it, we could do wherever we wanted. But our ribeyes and pork chops would then have pieces of shoulder blade in it, which is more difficult to cook, harder to carve. So I'm going to find that first rib. First rib, second rib, third, fourth, fifth, sixth rib. This is like the only time we're really gonna puncture. I'm gonna come out the front. And I'm going to continue that all the way through.
Okay.
Okay. And that same line, I'm going to take all the way to the butt. Okay. And if I've cut through all the meat, I should, depending on the split, be able to just take this all the way off.
Whoa.
So my split is a little bit off.
Whoa.
We didn't talk about the split.
Okay.
Ideally,
Yes.
in the slaughterhouse, they have like a saw that goes right down the middle. And ideally, there's it's perfectly even.
I've seen that before, yes.
I've got a little bit of the other half's vertebrae. It's not totally halvesies. So I wasn't able to cut. So like that is the other half's meat right here.
I see.
But there's our shoulder. And then the butt of a gun, the back part is the butt.
Mm.
That's the picnic roast. They're both very good for slow cooking, but there's a cool steak in here.
Yeah.
Uh,
What is that?
the copa, the
Oh,
collar,
yeah.
it's very similar to the pork chop. You can see there's that eye muscle right there. Um, we're gonna get in here and I'm gonna show you just
Ooh.
how good it looks, but it's super valuable.
All right, continuing on the process. So,
All right.
all right, let's go over. We cut out the tenderloin, right? And then, well, at first you showed me just the three different fats. And then we went through the leaf lard fat that just is sort of the protector layer around the pig's organs.
Mhm.
Then we took that out so that you can get into the tenderloin.
That's right.
Right? So
Yeah, good job.
pulled out. I'm
Yeah.
learning. You guys can too. This is why you need to watch this. Then you pull out the tenderloin, which I saw that she gracefully did. But first, you took a knife and kind of
We're gonna
gingerly went
score
through.
along the vertebrae.
Right.
Yeah.
Then we took the tenderloin off, and then that little like mini tenderloin, but also can be used as sausage or
Yeah, we call it the chain.
the chain.
Yeah.
Okay. And then every part. So there's three parts, right, to the pig. And then every part is on the sixth vertebrae. Correct.
Between the fifth and the sixth vertebrae
Between the fifth
is
and the
where
sixth.
we have
Maker
removed
cuts.
the shoulder from the loin section.
Okay.
And every quadruped will be done that way.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So then we moved the shoulder, and so you guys saw that, and then in there you would find your pork butt or your picnic roast. And a lot of you guys have seen on my YouTube channel too of how many recipes I use with pork butt. I'm Cuban,
Oh,
so
cool. Awesome.
yeah, so I do a lot of. Actually, I have it in slow roast right now. So
Mm,
so it's at
cool.
home right now at 200 degrees, and it's been there for 24 hours already. So
Amazing.
it's going to be yummy, and then I have all these citrus like yummy things to put in there. Anyways, I want to continue on with this. Then we got the picnic roast, which actually I'm not super like. It's not one that I always go and get. I get more the pork butt.
For a slow cooking application, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's got even more connective tissue that breaks down, more gelatin.
Oh wow.
It's just less uniform.
Okay.
It doesn't have a steakable quote unquote
Sure.
inside of it, but it's a little bit more economical too.
That's a good to know.
Yeah, and
Right.
great for sausage.
Okay, good to know. And then we have that secret cut that's in there too called the copa, which Joe here has also told me too. A lot of them use it in Europe or whether it's like Spain, Italy as like more of the
Cured and
cured, thinner, amazing, just what you would put on charcuterie too. So.
and we cut them into chops for our case.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And the chops are good too. I've had them before. Amazing.
Awesome.
Cool. So now.
So just like when we removed between the fifth and sixth vertebrae, we've started our cut between the ham and the loin section. We've scraped across that pin bone,
The pin bone, that was it. Yeah.
and we're going to continue our cut all the way to the vertebrae. And with the tip of my knife, I'm on the vertebrae and I'm going away.
Okay. Yes, you always want to cut away from your body because that could be.
And your host.
Yeah.
So now we're just barely hanging on right here.
Okay. Wow.
So if you'll see, it's like a New York strip.
Let's see.
That last bit of New York strip, it's got a little bit of sirloin heart on here. That's where we scraped off that pin bone to maximize the amount of chops. And then on this other side, that's your pork chop ribeye.
Whoa. That looks great.
Yeah.
Very
We've got
clean.
some marbling, muscular fat in here. Beautiful fat cap that we can leave on or reduce down depending on the customer's choice. And again, I've maximized my ribeye by scraping that cartilage off of the shoulder blade.
Yes.
So I'm just making sure that I have as much marketable cuts as possible.
Now.
And now we can go right to the table
Yep.
with our ham.
Ooh. All right, now we get to, well, that's all the good stuff, I guess, but now we get to the real more detailed and the,
Yeah.
and yeah. Okay, so here we go.
I'm thinking as we keep going, it's going to start looking more and more like
What you
things
see.
you would
Yes.
recognize we
Yeah.
might walk into.
Okay.
And I hope it just kind of explains to you why those things taste and look the way they taste and look.
Sure.
So I'm starting with our loin section or the middle section.
Okay.
Rib chop, boneless chop, New York strip, ribeye, belly, spare ribs. So if you'll notice, there's a section right here of our loin and our belly. You see this little triangle right
Yes.
there?
Oh yeah.
That's pointing right to where I'm going to make my split belly and ribeye.
Okay.
There's a corresponding section, which we've already pointed to. This scrape that I did off the pin bone is going to point. I'm going to connect the dots.
Okay.
I'm going to hand saw between these ribs, but what I don't like to do is saw through meat. So there aren't ribs on this loin section right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut so I have a nice, not ragged, not sawed through
Yeah.
portion.
So just keeping that for the bone part.
Yeah.
So would you say that nature sort of has a way to also give you sort of instructions of how to butcher the animal?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it obviously it takes practice
Yeah.
and knowledge, but it hopefully as you get into it, it starts to make sense to you and become kind of intuitive.
Yeah.
Taking my
Like
little
even
skirt
that
steak.
right there on there, it was kind of a floppy, loose layer. It almost looked like it was like, take me away. So
Yeah.
you kind of go with it. And I guess, even just butchering some quarters of my own from hunting when I took it back and like a leg of venison,
Yeah.
you can just see also all the different intricate muscles too. And just like the
Right.
knife just goes there and you just sort of cut the way intuitively.
I think there's a saying I've heard is when in doubt, find a seam.
Sure.
Yeah. It's like be like water, like find the easy way out,
Right.
be water.
Yeah. That's right. Bruce Lee. I'm a fan.
So, but right now we've connected the dots to here and here.
Yep.
We could use the bandsaw over there. It's big and noisy and hard to clean.
Sure.
And when you use the bandsaw, you have to saw through the meat.
Okay.
So I would much rather saw through bone, stop, wipe, and then cleanly cut through the meat.
Okay. Let's do it.
So I'm just going to stay lined up. And if it isn't exactly where you put the line, it's not a big deal. I'm taking my time. I'm not using too much force. Anytime you feel yourself using too much force, you want to stop, think about what you're doing, because anytime you're not letting the knife cut, you're trying to do it with your muscles.
Yeah.
You can slip, think bad things
Sure.
can happen.
Okay.
So it should be easy.
Yeah.
You hear that sound? And now it's gone.
Ah, yes.
That means we're out of bone.
Okay. So no more saw needed.
I'm going to wipe this down in the direction of the blades.
Can you get this
Of the
saw
teeth.
off like Amazon?
That's what I did.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I was actually
Yeah.
asking like a job.
The Home Depot. It's the exact same.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cool.
Or Lowe's, whatever,
Yeah.
So
Whichever you prefer.
we've got this line here. I like to use a curved blade when I'm making long cuts. Curved blades are for long slashes when you're using either your elbow or your shoulder as a pivot point. So I'm going to cut away from my body. I'm down to the table with my edge, and I'm going to drag that along that line.
Wow.
And then I'm just going to clean that cut. Okay. So now I've got belly and the loin section.
Wow.
And if we were processing our delivery, we would just stack these right here and I would take them to the walk-in for further storage.
Yes.
But
Okay.
I'm going to show you.
The smaller cuts. So these are the two cuts. Clean. All right, Joe, what is next in the butcher process?
We're gonna clean up this belly a little bit, make
Okay.
it make a little bit more sense. I've still got some of our leaf lard on here. I've
Okay.
got some of the other half's belly on because of our off split. It's gonna happen.
Now, if you were to butcher a pig, an animal, let's say a not so clean animal, would the fat look different? The color? I know, at least in beef tallow, a lot of it has to do with forage, geographical
Of
location,
course.
season.
Season has a lot to do with it, especially in Texas. Our farmers deal with the same things that we deal with in our gardens: drought, heat,
Sure.
pests, things like that. So coming into the summer months, I might expect less fat. And that's something we're going to need to be prepared for with our purchasing, with what we make out of it, how we merch things. We don't want our farmers to force a product.
Right, of course.
The animal knows how to survive and
Sure.
eat. We can do a better job with adapting and featuring the seasons instead of, pretending they're not there.
Right. So by we, you mean also customers not going to the store and just expecting the same thing every time, because nature is not always
Yeah.
exactly the same thing all the time, unless you're forcing.
Absolutely. And I personally, I don't think it's the customer's fault right
Sure.
now. I think it's our duty to show the advantages
I see.
of embracing the changes
That's
and
a great way to look
showing
at it.
how it's better to celebrate
Yeah.
what's available now,
Yeah.
to be nostalgic about what just happened, to
Yeah.
look forward and celebrate it when it comes,
Yeah.
So,
Could one also, because I know that I save a lot of fat, so whether I'm cooking, bacon, or whether I am making even something like a picnic roast and you get a lot of the gelatinous broth, and you can save and you can freeze it so that when that season does come around, you could add more fat to it or
absolutely.
add that. Okay.
I mean, larding season is a thing. The pigs put on a lot of fat in the winter to protect their organs, to protect their bodies. And that's when traditionally you would harvest them.
Sure.
And you would utilize that fat for preservation, to make your rillettes and to cure things.
Yes.
So that you can then enjoy that throughout the whole year.
Okay.
And that's where a boucherie tradition comes from,
Yeah.
charcuterie, the word itself.
Yeah, that's good to know. I mean, I'm wanting to get into preservation too as well, and just storing and canning and all that. So it's really awesome to just to embrace the change, and then also be prepared for
Yeah.
things like your summer months when you are leaner and you want some little more fat, and that's just what you prefer. Then we can do
Absolutely,
that.
absolutely.
Awesome.
We're lucky that these pigs are always going to have a fair amount
Yeah.
because of their breed and because of the skill of our rancher, but there will be some changes.
Yeah. Okay, so we went down the rabbit hole of seasonally that the fat will change, but I know that sometimes people think, especially like whether it's egg yolk or even in beef tallow, they're like, oh, yellow is healthier.
Right.
Which,
We're good at manipulating each other.
okay.
And with the egg yolk is a perfect example.
Sure.
Maybe if I add marigold to the diet and it'll get
Right.
more yellow and orange and
Yeah.
bright. I don't deny that it looks awesome, it
Yeah.
pops and
Yeah.
everything, but it doesn't translate to flavor
Sure.
or nutrition necessarily.
Sure.
Pork fat generally is a cleaner looking fat, white fat, because they do not process the pigments of their feed the way that cows do, for example. Yeah, ruminants, exactly. So if this were beef, I would be showing you that since we have grass-fed and grass-finished beef, that our beef fat can be a little yellow or even orange.
Right.
Straw color, depending on, again, the seasons.
Yep.
So
Good to
pork
know.
fat ought to be fairly white, but if there is a little bit of a hue, pinkishness to it, that doesn't tell me that it is good or bad, honestly.
All right, here we are. Tell us about this.
So when in doubt, find a seam. If you'll look You see that line right there?
Okay, that's a nice white line. You guys can even see it from back there. So,
Yeah.
yes.
That corresponds to what some people call the inside skirt steak for beef. It's a
Oh,
flat, uniform muscle that also is on pork and is also a pretty cool steak. It's toothsome. I wouldn't
yeah.
say it's the most tender cut, but
Sure.
it's very flavorful.
I actually was at my friends, not my friend, but now they're my friends in Colorado, called Flying Bee Bar Ranch, and is this where carne asada comes from too? So
Yeah.
Cinco de Mayo is coming up. Well, hopefully this video will come out before that, but I mean, also Tuesday, Taco Tuesday, so that comes around every week.
Yeah.
So carne asada, right? So that would be more of like a chop up and
Yeah, I would slice it thin.
Okay, cool.
But I like to cook these just on my stovetop. You can marinate them. I mean, you can tenderize them and then
Sure.
knife and fork it, but
Right.
tacos for sure.
Tacos all the way.
So
All right.
it rests right over that cartilage plate, the sternum area. So it's telling me where it is. So I'm just going to get in here.
Go ahead.
So I'm just going to cut in here until I reach the cartilage. You see that right there? That's cartilage. See that shiner?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just going to start filleting that off of the cartilage. And once I've reached the end of it, I can get through that seam. And you can do this with beef or lamb or anything. And so this is getting me my inside skirt steak.
Wow.
Yeah, there's
This is
some debate
great.
on which is which, but we're
Inside
calling
skirt
it,
steak
yeah,
and
the
regular
most
skirt.
common. Okay. So you can see
Wow.
how uniform
I'm feeling butcher
and
vibes because
meaty.
I was already like in my brain thinking
Yeah.
about cutting that off.
Exactly. I mean, you've got part of the art of retail butchery at least is like, it's kind of like sculpture where you have to have a vision for how it's going to end up looking.
Sure.
How do I make this look finished? How do I make this look beautiful? How do I bring out the natural beauty of it? So for the case, I would probably trim up a little bit of that silver skin here,
Sure.
clean up with some of that. But honestly, this like fascia membrane right here is so thin, it would liquefy and actually create a nice crust on the pan or on your grill.
I love that.
Yeah, super, super yum. So now that we have removed along that seam our skirt steak, I'm gonna use our freehand.
Okay.
Lots of butchery is your freehand. And I'm feeling I got meat and I've got cartilage here. This cartilage is attached to our rib. So as soon as I start freeing that up, I'm gonna be able to get under our ribs. And I'm going to do our best.
Oh, yep.
I'll
I've seen
cross
that.
this curve and I'm gonna come out this direction.
Okay.
If I wasn't planning on using these ribs, I would turn my edge right into the rib and scrapey shiners,
Yes.
as our head butcher Wes likes to call them. But we're gonna try and sell these spare ribs
Okay.
and our belly.
And
So I'm going to do my best, and no pressure. We'll see how we do. I'm gonna come out this direction, little by
he knows
little.
about the blood bubble. Stay away from the blood bubble. Practice safety here.
And anytime I'm starting to cross my body, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have my elbow stop
Okay.
my follow through.
Oh,
Okay.
that's a good tip.
My elbow, I'm not gonna bend my elbow. Once my elbow hits my stomach, my ample stomach, it's going to stop.
Do they teach you this in butcher school, or that's sort of an intuitive thing that you...
I think if I had gone to a butcher school, they would have taught us that, but.
Oh, he didn't. So self-taught Joe. Wow. Okay.
So, hypercritical time, retail butcher. You can see here, I've got a little bit of dip in color here. That means I left a little bit too much of my belly on the rib, but I will pat myself on the back. The middle part is the most difficult part.
Sure.
And so we've got our belly that we can cure, and we've got our ribs
Yep.
that I will then see how it moves.
Uh-huh.
Right now I'm asking it how it wants to be broken down. I've got my cartilage section that moves, and I've got my rib section that does not. Okay, so I've cut through this cartilage, and now we've got our spare ribs.
That looks great. There we go. Ah, spare ribs. This is a beautiful cut. Look at this. Ah, we like it. Well done. All right, this is our loin section. Let's go for the loins.
Yeah,
All right, what do we got?
we've got our rib loin
Okay.
and our strip loin.
Okay.
Bone-in chops, usually boneless loin. These are our baby back ribs right here. So if somebody wanted baby backs, I would debone them, and we'd have then boneless pork chops. But I really like pork chops. I like that there's a rib on there.
Yeah.
You know, some texture, some gelatinous, like extra. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to split them. So ribs, no ribs.
Okay.
This last rib right here,
Sure.
what I'm gonna do, see rib, no rib, and they come at this angle. I'm going to give it a little bit of space so that that is a bone-in rib. And at that same angle, I'm going to take it all the way down to the vertebrae with my curved blade. I'm going to come up, and hopefully it meets about right there in between these vertebrae. We're going to use gravity to help us out a little bit.
Yes.
Okay. And I'll use my blade to split us the rest of the way.
Wow.
So that looks a little bit like a New York strip. So does that kind of make sense because they were connected? The way this ribeye looks a lot like this shoulder
Wow.
because they were connected.
Yep. Okay, you're starting to put the pieces together.
That's right. And then, like we talked about with the two kinds of fat, see that right there? I mean,
Beautiful.
some people request this much fat on there with skin on, but most people do not. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove this fat cap
Okay.
along that seam. We're gonna
Okay.
trace this seam all the
Okay.
way around. And if I wanted to, I could seam this out just with my hands,
Okay.
but it's a little bit rough.
Okay.
I'm just going to start pulling it, and it's kind of bubbly in between that seam.
Let's see the bubbles.
See that right there?
Oh yeah.
So I'm just going to, just little by little, with that same proportion, that same curve. I'm going to take this all the way. Looks like I went a little bit far right there.
Nice.
So,
Nice
and
work.
then, looks like I went a little far right there.
Yep. Okay, that's right. It's hard to juggle the camera work.
It's a different
Trying to
angle than
show
I
you
usually
guys
do,
a
but
different angle.
yeah.
We're screwing up his mojo right here. That's okay.
No, not at all,
So
not at
we're
all.
very grateful for the education.
So, that's where your chops and boneless chops come from.
Okay. Oh, we're moving along.
And the picnic.
Okay, we talked about the butt and the picnic. Now,
Remember that triangle that we split our ribeye
Right.
and
so there's another one.
right here.
Okay, yeah. So sort of just points and tells you this is where you
Exactly.
cut.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I'm going to line that up with the
Mhm.
dip of this neck vertebrae. And I'm going to saw through these ribs just like I did.
Sure.
I have some non bone, some rib here that I'm just going to cut as cleanly as possible for the exact same reason. I don't love sawing through meat. So along that same line. As soon as that sound changes.
So now, put it up, then we just take the knife.
Yeah. And there is the humerus there that we will have to saw through. But again, I want to make sure that I'm cutting through meat and only sawing through bone. And there's a little bit of the shoulder blade. Cut through the inspection tag.
Get that out of there.
That's not
We're
food.
legal.
Cool. So that's a butt. That's the picnic. Really quickly, of our trotter. It's gonna be tricky.
All right.
One of the things
Yes.
is to just see how the animal moves, see what moves and what doesn't. I've clearly got a pivot point right here. I have a saw, so if this gives me grief, we can always saw through it. But right at that line, I'm gonna make cuts above and around. And I'm turning.
There we go.
And I'm just making little cuts.
Sure.
Okay.
Nice. And you guys use that?
Stock. Yeah, it's full of
The
collagen.
best part of the animal for stock, yeah?
I also love pickled pig's feet. That's just something I think is
Pickled
really
pig's
cool.
feet. Oh, cool.
You braise it in a flavorful liquid
Yeah.
and until it's very soft, and then you cool it in a pickling liquid. And it's just a good time.
Okay.
Here's our foreshank.
Yep.
Same idea. I'm just gonna kind of see what moves and what doesn't. And just like us, it has an elbow. And use your offhand. Feel where there's soft meat and where there's bone. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
Soft.
that socket is a U-shaped socket about right here. So what I do is I find where there's bone and then where there isn't. I'm on the table and I kind of come down and I start to open that up. I'm going to make a cut here. And then with the tip of my knife, I'm going to drag it to the end of that cut. And then I'm going to, now I can look and I can see how my right hand's moving and that's not.
Yep.
That means that that is the ball joint. I'm going to open that up a little bit. Cut away from myself. I'm going to find that U shape right there. You see that seam right there?
Yeah.
I'm going to
Perfect.
put the tip of my knife right there. You see how it just opens up?
Oh, yeah.
And anything that's keeping me from taking this out, I'm just going to cut it through.
Cool.
Okay.
Yep. Oh, we got a favorite secret. Tell us, Joe.
Is the shoulder ribs, country ribs, or some people just call them ribs.
Okay.
But this plate right here has really, really good meat. Lots and lots more meat than the spare rib. And it's a really clear seam, right?
And it's on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just going to kind of seam this out. See this bubbly stuff? We're just going to cut it through and it rests right over our piggy brisket. So again, cartilage, bone. Just gonna cut through that.
Ooh.
And then that is a super meaty, super delicious barbecue rib.
Yeah. Barbecue season
That's
coming
right.
up. All right. Next up.
So that copa we talked about,
Yep.
some of the best parts of the whole animal
Opa.
is this loin section that continues up to the neck. Chuck eye steak, we sell that as beef, and it's like the best parts of the ribeye, but without the rib.
Sure.
The same thing corresponds on each quadruped, and the pork is phenomenal. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to carve along this bit of the rib cage up into the neck. As I've gotten to the vertebrae, I'm going to point my blade away and out. And I'm just going to continue to remove the vertebrae and the neck.
Dang, the neck is good for stock too. Or
Oh, it's amazing.
broth. Yeah.
Yeah, super good. I worked
Wow.
at a place we used to cut this off right here, leave all the meat that's right here on it, and then barbecue that. It's
Ooh.
insane. So, this is our copa right here. It's the, if this were beef, the chuck eye with the Denver steak on it, that seam right here. Scraping it off of the shoulder blade, across
Yep.
the neck,
Oh yeah.
same seam.
Yeah, these are all just starting to, I'm starting to easily recognize them as I would, in the
Yay.
grocery store. I'm like, oh yeah, that is what the copa looks like. And
Yay.
it's like, oh yeah. So,
And then I'm going to leave this fat cap on the rest of this blade. So all of this is super good. To retail the chop, I'll probably, see how it looks like a Denver steak. Super, super good. Piggy Denver. I'm gonna switch to my slicer.
so this is the copa chop. Bring this up. Sorry about
Yeah, no problem.
that. Copa chop. This is great. This stuff, and so they thin this out in Europe too as getting.
Yeah.
That's what the
You would cure this whole section and then dry it, ferment it and dry it, and then you would slice it super thin like you would prosciutto.
wow.
It's phenomenal. Love that sound. That's what we like. Tip of my knife in between. I'm torquing it down and away. So now that nice calf muscle can stay on my ham. And I'm just gonna roll this shank off of it.
The shank. I like the shank.
I love shanks too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Everything about it.
We've got cool cutlets we can cut out of the top round, out of the bottom round, but I really want to take the time and show you sirloin. Sirloin for
Yes.
any animal is amazing.
Okay.
I've got this weird shaped muscle. It's half a pelvis. It's the H bone, AITCH. And I just start by feeling where there's bone,
Okay.
comes down and out through the tail.
Okay.
So I'm gonna pull that H bone out this direction. So anywhere you find bone, just start exploring, feeling with your offhand where there's meat, where there's bone. With the tip of my blade, feel, okay, I'm up against bone, so that's good. I've got a ball socket right here that I'm going to open up. There's a very strong tendon right there that attaches it. And I can see it. I'm going to sever it. the more profound aspects of the responsibility,
Right.
that's more nutritious and it's more flavorful. It tastes better. You're
Yeah.
gonna want to use
Yeah.
all of it
Yeah.
and not just the best
Yeah.
parts of it, you know?
And it tastes alive too. I've had, even from the best of raised chickens to me freshly harvesting it,
Yeah,
tastes completely different. And even my own
100%.
like hunting experience with a deer and whatnot, it's because the nutrients are alive.
Yeah.
And as much as, again, sometimes like this is life. This is, in order for us to live, something must die. And at least like if the nutrition is alive in
Yeah.
your food and in your meat, like I don't feel like I'm eating just a rubber fake something
I know.
created in a lab, right?
You can call it chi or whatever.
Energy, yeah.
It's transferred.
Exactly.
So I started off carving around here and I brought it all the way down to this ball socket, and you see that tendon right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very strong. There's no amount of pulling that's going to get that out.
Sure.
So you have to get the tip of your knife and you got to cut it.
Mm.
And you can kind of cut around. You can see bone, sirloin. So I'm just going to kind of connect here. The bone is kind of convex. So I'm going to point my blade up into the bone and down. That's that pin bone. Oops. That's that pin bone that we scraped.
Yep.
I'm going to keep my blade up into bone.
Ah.
And now I'm going to be able to open up that ball joint a little bit more. Experiment, rotate it, feel around. There's this part that kind of frustrates some people of the H bone. It actually dips right down and connects to the eye of round a little bit further than you might think. It's kind of like a thumb.
Okay.
So,
Oh, interesting.
yeah, there's a really strong tendon attached to it. Don't get frustrated. Don't
Feel the
get,
flow. Be
yeah,
like water.
that's right. So, and then also, if you can't see something, get it out of your
Go
way.
for it.
Yeah. I'm going to take this little oyster steak off of it. It's a little bit puny on pork, but on beef, it's an amazing steak. So I'm tracing out this tail also. And little by little, I'm going to fillet this off of our sirloin.
Ooh, that's a nice cut.
Okay.
Whoa.
So it's a little funky. There actually is a joint in here
Mm.
that you can pop out, but once you figure it out, that leaves ham and then
Yep.
sirloin in between the H bone and the strip. And it's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. What we'll do is we'll take this like little diagonal off of the ball joint.
Mm-hmm.
We're just gonna cut across. And that is like piggy top sirloin.
Wow. There it is.
Yeah.
The top sirloin.
Yeah. Soup of all worlds. It's tender, but still toothsome. It's much more flavorful because it's a little bit more of a load bearing muscle than the loins, but it's not tough. So,
So when you open up a cow, right, and you get the chuck from a similar area, right, the neck piece, the chuck roast tends to be almost leaner, right, in a beef. Is that correct?
yeah, I mean, it depends.
I mean, it has a lot of connective tissue and collagenous
Definitely.
pieces, but like the fat, intermuscular fat, there's not a lot there.
I mean, that depends on breed and diet as well, on age.
Mm.
A lot of beef is not, doesn't, a lot of ranchers don't give their beef enough time to develop intermuscular fat.
Uh,
Um, they want to focus their energy on bone density and organ health, really. So to get them fat quickly so that you can make your profits quickly
Sure.
is why you use corn,
Right.
because the carbohydrates are just insane.
Right.
But grass-fed cows can get very fat. They just need 3 times as long.
Right. Time.
And almost no rancher is willing to invest that much time
Right.
and infrastructure.
Sure. Unless
Sadly.
they are doing it right and working with nature
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah.
So for a pig, what age do you slaughter pigs, or at least Pure Pasture says?
Right. So most pasture raised operations
Yes.
still have to compete with commercial commodity
Sure.
people. It's just the way it is right now. So they'll use Berkshire as a baseline, which is the fastest growing of the heritage breeds. And they will mix their own proprietary breeds into it. So you get the flavor, the fat, and texture from the other breeds, and you use a little bit of that Berkshire for speed. So a commodity production would harvest Berkshires in just a few months,
Oh my gosh.
4 months, something like that.
Wow. Okay.
Pure Pastures harvest them at just under a year.
Okay.
So more than double the time.
Sure.
And that's all investment. That's feed, that's water, that's land usage that other ranchers would stop and harvest and get cash in on.
Right.
But at Pure Pastures and other like-minded operations, they're going to put more than double the infrastructure investment in their meat.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's important. I mean, I think just because it comes out, like you said in the beginning, too, how Kevin says, you are what your animal eats,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
right? The inception of eating. And it's very, very true because their, omega profiles and just their micronutrient density profiles that come out of it, we are, getting. And so the longer that these animals live in the most, respectful way and as nature intended, and just a slow, I say the fastest way to health is by slowing it down.
Yeah.
Right? So just slow food. And so and you can really see it in their pork or at least the carcass that I'm looking at right now. And yeah, and you've seen it obviously multiple times with how often that you are in a pork carcass. And yeah, and just the older, that they get, then the healthier their meat is as well.
And it tastes better.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like when you have a heritage chicken, you're like, that's an animal.
Yeah.
That had a life.
Yeah.
And say what you want, that's what meat eating is. We have to embrace,
All right, what are we looking at on the table real quickly going boom, boom, boom?
All right, we've got our shoulder section. We got a few copa chops,
Okay.
some secret butcher stuff that I hope doesn't remain a secret.
Yep.
Into our middle section, our belly, our ribs, our ribeye, rib chops, New York strip, boneless loin chops.
Yes.
A picnic, which also has the best ribs on the animal, the shoulder ribs.
Ooh.
We're going into the hind quarter, our ham. We cure for deli hams. It's great sausage meat. I have pulled out the sirloin. Any sirloin is going to blow your mind, and it doesn't have to just be beef. We've also got our shanks, great for smoking, barbecue, any slow application, your crock pot, and then the trotters that are going to lend all the collagen you could want. I like to snack on them once they're cooked.
Yeah.
But if you just use them for broth, it's going to increase your culinary output tenfold.
And you're gonna have to show me that pickling recipe too.
Sure.
I want to know.
I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, cool. All right, Joe. So we just butchered half a pig, and not just any pig, right?
That's right. It's been super fun to share this with you. First of all, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
We got to show you the way we break down a whole pig. It's a pasture raised pig. And because we buy the whole thing, we're able to offer sirloins and copas and ribs and roasts and trotters and skin, and really able to embrace and feature and elevate every part of every animal that paid a sacrifice to feed our people.
Yeah, and it's really beautiful too to come here to Radius in East Austin. There's not many grocers or just places where one, you have such a gentle and kind butcher behind the scenes, but also to just have the conversation with you, to talk, animal butchery and animal husbandry, and just know really passionate about where the animals come from. And so this is the type of thing that I really want to encourage is next time you go to the grocery store, it doesn't have to be the perfect place or the perfect butcher, but maybe if you just start looking at the labels and then contact, the farmers or the ranchers who do that, like start asking the questions, and then, or maybe get to know your butcher at the grocery store and maybe start asking these questions. But if you do find local shops that do have in-house butchers, it's truly special because there's a process for the animal, and it's really nice to just touch base with each touch points along
Yeah.
that way.
I mean, everything comes out of community and conversation.
Yeah.
It's a feedback loop, and you learn from us, we learn from you.
Yeah.
And even if your butcher or grocery store doesn't hit the mark everywhere just yet,
Yeah.
let's start talking. Let's show
Right.
them there's demand.
Right.
Ask questions. Let them know you're looking for something else, or you're
Right.
looking for, if you ever had this, I would come and buy it.
Yeah.
I think little by little, it's going to make a difference. You just have to believe that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, these conversations are important. And the fact, too, that, a lot of this animal doesn't go to waste. There's a lot of things that you guys use here and that you make in-house, such as your broths or your,
Yeah.
lotions and creams from this.
Yeah, sausages and deli meats
Yeah.
and all sorts of stuff. We'd love other ideas too.
Yeah.
Not that we're going to run out, but there are some things we're not going to think about. So
Yeah.
please come by.
Yeah.
I'd love to
Come by.
see XYZ from
Yeah,
y'all.
exactly. Yeah, come by, share your thoughts and suggestions or anything. Come say hi to Joe. Come say hi to Kevin and the team at Radius here in East Austin. And I'll put all the links down below of where you can come find them, how you can come follow them on Instagram, because I think even on their website as well, too, you guys offer resources like how to eat seasonally. Maybe recipes are involved.
Research papers, all
Research
sort
papers.
more than you might even think you're
What
going to
about
see.
butchery classes?
It's coming.
It's
It's coming.
coming.
It's
Okay,
coming.
that's the other thing too, is you guys have workshops or will be having workshops too that
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sausage
Cool.
making, knife sharpening. We'll have dinners in here.
Yeah.
We want to utilize this space to build community in every way we can.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much. Really quickly though, Joe, it's been a pleasure.
Lindsay, it's been a pleasure.
I know. He's awesome. Come chat with him. Radius, East Austin. Thank you guys so much for joining. And again, thank you so much for your skills and your passion. I really appreciate you teaching people like me how to just, become an advocate and just, or not an advocate, but learn how to just take more control of my food.
Thank you so much for happening. Thank you so much for coming here. Yes. Thank you all so much for tuning in and participating as well. Yes. We're going to figure out how to feed each other with more nutritious, more delicious, and more abundance.
Yes.
More abundant food. So anytime you want to come by, anytime y'all want to come by, ask for Joe, ask for Wes. Any of us are going to want to celebrate this with you.
Cool. And community too. So thanks for being a part of it, and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. See you guys.